So it's Pride Month, and it's also the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. So if you don't know what that means, we'll go through and talk about gay pride. So there's a pride parade and stuff, but just gay pride in general is a positive stance against any sort of discrimination towards LGBT people, so lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, and lets them help promote their self-affirmation, dignity, equality rights, and increase their invisibility as a social group. Pride, as opposed to using shame or social stigma, is the predominant outlook that bolsters LGBT right movements throughout the world. And some of them are solemn, and others could be carnivals and parades as well too. So LGBT Pride Month is in June, and it commemorates a turning point in the country and America's LGBT history, and for various other countries as well too. So Moscow Pride is in May, and it's the anniversary of Russia decriminalizing homosexuality in 1993. And there could be commemorations, rallies, marches, dance parties, community days. And as of 2017, the state of New York has hosted the 2019 is going to be the largest celebration internationally of LGBT pride in history. And it's going to be called Stonewall 50/World Pride to commemorate the 50th anniversary of those Stonewall riots. So you're like, yo, Stonewall riots? What does that mean? I don't understand. And that's fine. So we're going to talk about that. In June 1969, you gambled all your quills and lost them. Great job. That is amazing. So the Stonewall riots, the uprising, the rebellion, whatever you'd like to call it, it's spontaneous demonstrations by members of the gay community against a police raid that took place June 28th, 1969 at... Oh, something really cool just happened in Rocket League. Everyone's cheering. At the Stonewall Inn in the Greenwich Village in Manhattan, New York City. And in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of anti-gay legal systems that went against gay Americans, and there was a lot of early homophile groups that tried to prove that gay people are able to assimilate into modern society. So homophile means a love for, or a kindness for, versus homophobia, which means a fear or a hatred for. Phobia, philia, same with Philadelphia. That's where those type of names and sounds come from. Hi, J. Rouse, how are you? Welcome on in. That JessyQuil strong. Oh man, look at these lights. You can actually see oh man, I'm so damn strong. I'm beautiful. Anyway. So the last years of the 60s had a lot of political and political and economic movements, especially an anti-Vietnam War movement, counterculture of the 60s, and hippiness, civil rights movements for Black Americans as well too. So it was kind of natural that gay Americans, LGBT affiliated people were a part of this countercultural change to have a catalyst for acceptance into society. So there's very few establishments that welcomingly opened gay people in the 50s and 60s. And if they did, it was mostly a bar. And it would, the managers and stuff wouldn't be gay themselves. It was more of yeah, whatever. And so there was this inn called the Stonewall Inn that was owned by the mafia. And it catered to an assortment of marginalized people. So drag queens, transgender people, effeminate young men, butch lesbians, male prostitutes, and homeless youth. And the police raided a lot of these gay bars in the 60s. And officers quickly lost control of that situation at the Stonewall Inn, and there was a lot of tensions between the New York City Police Department and gay residents in the Greenwich Village, which erupted into even more protests later in the evening and several nights later. So within weeks, that whole village, Greenwich Village, had residents that quickly organized into activist groups, and they concentrated their efforts on establishing places for gays and lesbians to be more open about their sexual orientation without having the fear of being arrested, just being out on the streets or being at a bar or anything of that nature. So after these riots, a lot of gay and lesbian people within New York City faced so much gender and race and class and generational obstacles to become an actual cohesive community. And there was 2 gay activist organizations that were formed in New York that concentrated on doing more confrontational tactics, and 3 newspapers were established to help promote the rights of gays and lesbians. So within a few years, gay rights organizations were founded across the U.S. and some chapters throughout the world. And on June 28, 1970, the first gay pride marches took place in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, and Chicago. And they commemorated the anniversary of those Stonewall riots that happened the year prior. And similar smaller marches were in other cities all throughout the world as well too, just depending on who got information out. And there is a Stonewall National Monument as well too, and that went up in 2016. It's a 7.7 acre U.S. national monument in the West Village in Lower Manhattan, and it's directly across the street from the Stonewall Inn, where in 1969 those riots started in the first place.